24-year-old Aaron Frazier and his brother-in-law were building an outdoor shower and a swimming pool in the backyard of his childhood house in Jacksonville, Northeast Florida, in December 2014. However, while digging through the backyard, he found something that initially seemed like a coconut, but turned out to be far more gruesome. What was discovered in 2014 in that backyard by Aaron was later found to be the remains of his long-lost mother, Bonnie Heim, who disappeared in January 1993. Who buried her in the backyard of her own house? Do you think Aaron knew anything about this event from his childhood? In this episode today, we will be discussing the twisted case of Bonnie Heim. But first, if you still haven't subscribed to the channel, please go and hit the subscribe button and the bell icon down below. And now, without further ado, let's get started. Jacksonville is located in the northeastern region of Florida, 350 miles up the coast from Miami, and less than an hour's drive from Georgia. It is one of the largest cities in terms of area in the United States continental territory, with 747 square miles. It is the 12th most populous city in the United States, and the most populous city proper in Florida, with just about 950,000 people living there. Jacksonville's cost of living is 7% less than the national average, making it an affordable home for many. The Florida-Georgia game, the annual college football game between the rival Florida Gators and Georgia Bulldogs, has been held in Jacksonville almost yearly since 1933 and is one of the largest sports events there every year. Jacksonville is also home of River City Pride, which is Northeast Florida's largest gay pride parade. But it was here in Jacksonville that a terrible crime took place in 1993. Born on May 20th, 1969 in Scotland, Bonnie Lynn Picciuto was one of the 5 daughters of parents Robert Picciuto and Patricia Picciuto, who also had one son. Unfortunately, there is very little information recorded of Bonnie in her early life, but testimonies from her family and everyone she was close to suggest she was calm and a peacemaker in the group. She was full of love and cared deeply for people she was close to. Bonnie was married to Michael Heim on September 12, 1987, when she was 18 years old, and the couple lived in their family home in Jacksonville, Northeast Florida. In 1989, the couple had their first and only son, Aaron. Bonnie and Michael worked in the same construction supply company, which was owned by Evian Heim and her husband. Evian Heim was Michael's aunt and was a very close friend to Bonnie. While Michael was a manager in the company, Bonnie was an accountant. Bonnie had a very problematic marriage where Michael was often found verbally abusive towards her in many incidents. Evian, who was quite close to the couple, claimed that she and other employees of the company had often witnessed situations where Michael would shout at her and verbally abuse her in public. She recalled an incident where the verbal abuse went on to become physical abuse when Michael slammed the car door on Bonnie's hand while they were having an argument in the parking space of their workplace. Bonnie ran back crying to Evian. Evian, along with Bonnie's sister Liz Peak, was aware of the fact that Bonnie wanted to separate from Michael and take Aaron with her. To do this, she had created a different bank account to save money. But unfortunately, Michael somehow learned about the separate bank account and forced Bonnie to close it. Although she did what Michael wanted her to do, she ensured that she was still saving the money for her separation and trusted Evian for that and was keeping her money with Evian. On the day of Bonnie's disappearance, January 6, 1993, Bonnie and Evian had plans to meet around 8 p.m. at Evian's place. Bonnie reached her own house in Jacksonville around 6:30 p.m. However, around 8:30 that evening, Bonnie called Evian to inform her that she wouldn't be able to visit Evian's place that night as the couple had an argument which had really upset Bonnie. When Evian asked if she wanted to call her later, Bonnie assured that she would call Evian in the morning. Throughout the call, Evian noticed that Bonnie was crying and seemed very upset with the fight. Later that night is when she allegedly left the house and never returned. Michael allegedly said that he contacted his mother, Carolyn Heim, and requested her keep an eye on Aaron while he went in search of Bonnie the same night of January 6, 1993. He went away for almost 45 minutes. After reportedly doing so, he went home, waited until the next morning without contacting the police, and then called in to inform his employer that both he and Bonnie wouldn't attend office that day, as she had left the night before. The following morning, Bonnie's purse, which included her cash, credit cards, identification, and other items, was found in a trash can behind the Red Roof Inn very close to Jacksonville by a maintenance worker. Upon the discovery of the purse, Michael reported Bonnie missing and said she disappeared on January 6, 1993, the previous night. Detective Robert Hinson was the lead investigation officer in the missing case of Bonnie Heim in 1993. The police quickly discovered Bonnie's abandoned automobile near the Jacksonville airport, which was close to the Red Roof Inn. Michael had admitted that Bonnie had left the house voluntarily at 11 p.m. on the night of January 6, 1993. They noted that the driver's seat was placed for someone of Michael's stature. It was pulled back more than what would have been comfortable for Bonnie. Authorities examined it and discovered a shoe print on the floor of the driver's side. It was discovered that it matched a certain style of sports shoe that, coincidentally, Michael owned. "Daddy hurt Mommy," "Daddy shot Mommy," and "Daddy placed Mommy in timeout" were the phrases used by 3-year-old Aaron when Detective Hinson took a bold attempt to uncover the truth by arranging a child psychologist for Aaron. From what Aaron told them, the authorities began to look at Michael as a suspect in his wife's disappearance. They believed that there had been a domestic dispute, that Michael Heim had killed his wife and taken her away, and that Aaron Heim, the couple's 3.5-year-old son, had seen this. Later, Michael's parents' rights were taken away because Aaron was the only living witness to Bonnie's murder. The judge believed he was in danger of being mistreated. Another of Aaron's childhood claims was proven to be true in 1995. He revealed to psychologists that immediately after killing Bonnie, Michael threw a shotgun out of the car. After some time, he told his foster mother which bridge Michael had thrown it off of. It was discovered in the water below, and it was found to have been there ever since Bonnie vanished. It matched one that was discovered at Michael's house. Bonnie was ruled legally deceased in 1999. Aaron's name was changed to Aaron Frazier after being adopted by his foster family. His foster mother also stated that his version of events did not alter over time. He consistently told her and the police that Michael was Bonnie's murderer. He also drew images of himself shooting her when he was younger. In addition, he described her murder and how Michael's parents assisted him in disposing of her body in an essay he did in 8th grade. Later, Aaron and his adoptive parents sued Michael, blaming him for what happened. A civil court judge commanded him to pay Aaron $26.3 million in 2005, and Aaron also received his childhood home in Jacksonville as part of the settlement. The main suspect in Bonnie's disappearance was Michael. He was suspected of abusing her physically and verbally. When he learned that she had created a bank account in her own name, he was furious. Evian saw that she was agitated and sobbing that night before she vanished following a disagreement with Michael. The day after she vanished, he decided to take a sick leave, but he did not initially report her missing. He didn't seem worried about her going missing, said Evian. He seemed worried about the money she was keeping from him instead. The seat of Bonnie's automobile was further back than it would have been comfortable for her when it was discovered at the airport. It suggested that someone bigger, like Michael, had driven it. The last individual to do so left a shoe print behind. Michael wore identical shoes, and the sand and plant matter used in the print came from the same place as the material extracted from his shoes. The most shocking assertion made by Aaron was that he saw Michael murder Bonnie. The legitimacy of his claims as a 3-year-old were called into question, though. Although Michael's Aunt Evian testified of witnessing incidents where Michael abused Bonnie verbally and physically at multiple occasions, as she could see them at work regularly, Bonnie's father, Mr. Robert Picciuto, kept on believing that his daughter had gone away voluntarily, and Michael had no role in the disappearance of his daughter Bonnie. When the authorities presented the evidence, such as the footprints from the car that were a match to Michael's shoe, Mr. Picciuto commented that he was unsure of what it implied. He further claimed that just because his footprints were found in his wife's car didn't mean he had ever hurt her. Moreover, the evidence of his grandson did not convince him. He commented that one must evaluate a child's credibility in the context of other factors. Although detectives had claims from Evian and Aaron which directly pointed out Michael Heim as the culprit, for the following 2 decades, Michael Heim was just a suspect, since there was never a corpse to be found and insufficient proof of physical evidence that could bring charges against him. Thus, the case went cold. Aaron acquired the home where he had previously resided with Michael and Bonnie as part of the settlement with Michael after the lawsuit him and his foster parents filed against Michael. Almost a decade later, in 2014, Aaron went to his Jacksonville childhood home to renovate the pool area with his brother-in-law. That is when he discovered a big plastic bag in which there was something that looked like a coconut shell initially. However, as he observed it closely, he was horrified when he realized what he was holding was a human skull. Aaron immediately called Robert Hinson, the primary investigator of the Bonnie Heim missing case, and also his therapist, and told them that he felt the human remains were his own mother's. The reason for Aaron to call Robert Hinson was because deep down, Frazier thought of the same person who Robert suspected from the very beginning. As the remains were collected, the authorities also found a .22 caliber bullet casing. In August 2015, the human remains found in the backyard of Jacksonville was conclusively recognized as Bonnie's after DNA testing was conducted on it. After the DNA test concluded that the body that was discovered by Aaron Frazier in the backyard of his childhood house in Jacksonville in August 2015 was in fact that of his own long-lost mother, Bonnie Heim, Michael Heim, being the prime suspect, was arrested by authorities from North Carolina on August 24, 2015. Since 1999, when Bonnie Heim was officially declared deceased, Michael had been living his life with the life insurance of his deceased wife. Although Michael Heim was arrested in August 2015, he pleaded not guilty to the allegations brought against him and was released on bail initially. However, on April 8, 2019, his trial finally started after multiple delays. Prosecutor Mac Heavener represented Aaron Frazier in this trial with evidence and witnesses that pointed out Michael Heim to be the killer of Bonnie Heim in 1993. While on the other side was Janice Warren representing Michael Heim and his innocence. The panel consisted of honorable judges like Lori Rowe, M. Kimberly Thomas, Rachel Nordby, and Stephen Whittington. In his opening remarks for the murder trial, Assistant State Attorney Alan Mizrahi said that the truth was always hidden in the backyard. In the trial, Mizrahi also pointed out that a .22 caliber shell was also discovered close to the remains of Bonnie Heim in 2014. And Aaron mentioned that Michael Heim had tossed his .22 caliber shotgun off a bridge shortly after killing Bonnie. In fact, officials discovered the gun in 1995 beneath the water of the same bridge. Bonnie's death was not conclusively proven by the medical examiner, but Mizrahi claimed that Michael Heim had shot Bonnie in 1993 and buried her thereafter. He asserted that Michael's actions and body language both before and after the murder show his heinous disregard for Bonnie Heim's life. When Aaron was asked to give his statement, he said that when he picked up the thing that looked like a coconut in my backyard in December 2014, it turned out to be the top of her skull. He claimed that as he turned it to face the hole, he saw what seemed to be teeth. It was quite difficult, he remarked. I think everyone can picture picking out a skull, even if it isn't a loved one, and what it would do to someone. Needless to add that it was in fact my own mother's. The 53-year-old Michael Heim, who was wearing spectacles and an olive-colored suit, was emotionless when Prosecutor Hevener pointed at him during final arguments. As he has done ever since his wife vanished, Michael stood and insisted on his innocence during the entire trial. I loved my wife, he affirmed in court, and I would never hurt my wife. Mac Hevener chronologically set out all of the events in the courtroom that happened during the day of Bonnie Heim's disappearance, based on the reports and claims of the witnesses at that time. He tried to focus on the areas that led to the absurdity of linking anyone other than her husband behind her murder. Bonnie Heim skipped work on January 7, 1993. She left the house alone at 11 p.m., according to Michael Heim, who would subsequently claim that the pair had argued the previous evening. Hevener informed the jury that the defendant had the intent, the means, and the capacity to murder his wife. He was aware that Bonnie Heim intended to take their 3-year-old boy and separate from him. She called her close friend Evian the night before she vanished. She was upset and weeping. She promised to talk with Evian in the morning. Michael Heim was referred to as Mr. Ill Will and Mr. Evil Intent by Prosecutor Hevener, claiming that he was the owner of the specific gun used to murder Bonnie Heim, and that a footprint in the sand on her car's floor matched his size 10 Nike sneakers. Hevener remarked, "You'll hear the truth scream from those floor mats." In this case, the shoe print says volumes. Just then, he had completed preparing the burial. Near Jacksonville International Airport, where police eventually discovered Bonnie Heim's automobile in an airport parking area, Bonnie Heim's handbag was initially discovered behind a Red Roof Inn. Bonnie's car keys, according to Hevener, were in her handbag. She had left her house key and another car key at the couple's home. The prosecutor said that it was pretty strange to think that a woman could leave her son, her job, and leave her house without a set of keys that she normally uses, leaving all her earthly belongings inside. Aside from Michael Heim's assertion of innocence, the state's case, according to Michael Heim's defense attorney Janice Warren, was founded on innuendo and hypotheticals that don't exist. Michael Heim's innocence was asserted by the defense, not because they believed he is innocent, but rather because that is the case's legal position. If the case of Bonnie Heim is examined carefully, there may be many grounds for reasonable doubt. Warren said that the prosecution was fabricating evidence in order to obtain a conviction. In response, Assistant State Attorney Alan Mizrahi reminded the jury that justice was necessary because the facts of this case demanded it. Bonnie Heim is unable to receive justice. It depends on those who are looking for it on her behalf. In the courtroom, Michael Heim testified about his love for Bonnie Heim. He also provided testimony on his wife's mental state on their final night together in 1993. Before she vanished, Bonnie may have been unhappy for a month or two, according to him. He went on to say that she wasn't as bubbly as she had been in the months before her disappearance on that tragic night. In his opening remarks, defense attorney Warren argued that the prosecution lacked sufficient proof to establish Michael's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. "We agree that she is dead. Her body is there. We all agree. But they have to show that he committed the crime," she remarked. "Ladies and gentlemen, when you listen to the evidence, and after you're finished, you're going to see the lack of evidence in this case far outweighs any evidence they brought you." Initially, Michael Heim appealed to the court that Aaron's statement from his childhood should be kept out of the trial, as he was just a toddler, and his perception towards the whole situation of his mother's disappearance and his testimonies related to his father hurting her might have been from his own imagination. Michael Heim insisted that Aaron's statement was baseless, as he was too young to even remember what happened to his mother the night she disappeared. However, the honorable judge decided to keep Aaron's statements and testimonies a big factor of the trial because back in 1995, Aaron's claims about the location of the shotgun had been proven true. Evian Heim, who was close to both Bonnie and Michael, gave testimonies against Michael, confirming that Michael had been very abusive and controlling towards Bonnie. She believed that Michael was absolutely capable of killing and burying Bonnie in their backyard. Additionally, 2 prisoners claimed that Michael Heim admitted to killing his wife in 2015 when he was imprisoned with them. Terrence Richardson, one of the inmates, said that Michael started telling them about how he strangled his wife to death, how her kid was furious with him, and how he buried her in the backyard. Apart from this witness, 2 significant pieces of evidence that stood out and directly pointed towards Michael as the culprit were the footprints on the car seat that matched Michael's shoe that was found in the family home of Heim. The second was the .22 caliber shell that matched the gun that Michael owned. The jury heard testimony from the witnesses about aggravating circumstances that could result in a longer sentence for Heim, including whether the crime was committed in front of a family member, whether evidence was tampered with, whether it was committed in a heinous, atrocious, or cruel manner, and whether it caused the victim's family great emotional distress. The judge concluded the crime was not conducted in a terrible, awful, or cruel way, while agreeing on 3 of the aggravating circumstances. The jury found Michael guilty of second-degree murder on April 12th, based on the available information and witnesses. He received a life sentence on May 21st, 2019. Domestic violence can take different forms. It can have a severe impact on children who witness it, and in cases like Bonnie Heim's, can cause children to have lifelong trauma. Here, a father named Michael Heim, who was supposed to be the protector, the hero to the son Aaron, turned into his biggest nightmare. Although Michael received his sentence of life imprisonment, and Bonnie was served justice, it still did not bring back a mother for her son. Evidence and witnesses helped Bonnie's family win the trial after over 2 decades of waiting. And this, hopefully, brought her family some form of peace.